Join me as I tell you the tale of a handsome young schoolteacher on a dangerous mission. This is the tale of Nathan Hale, the spy who got caught, and the man whose last words became immortal. But before you imagine him as a flawless statue of patriot virtue, let me pull you into the messier, juicier truth of how a 21-year-old ended up dangling from a British rope in New York City. Nathan Hale was fresh out of Yale, a schoolteacher from Connecticut. The kind of fella you'd expect to find drilling Latin verbs into drowsy students, not sneaking around behind enemy lines. But when war broke out, Hale wasn't content to stay at his desk. He joined the Continental Army. The kind of young man people pointed to and said, "Now there's a patriot." Brave? Certainly. Experienced? Not in the slightest. But that's the thing about youth. It charges ahead where older, wiser men hesitate. By the fall of 1776, General George Washington's army was in shambles after the disaster on Long Island. The general needed information about British troop movements desperately. He asked for a volunteer to slip behind enemy lines. The response was likely silence heavy as a churchyard. Everyone knew the penalty for spying. Not a musket ball, not even a prison cell, but a rope and a short drop in front of a crowd. But one voice spoke up. Nathan Hale stepped forward. Was he fully aware of what he was signing up for? Maybe not. He had no training in espionage, no clever codes, no disguises beyond plain clothes. He believed his country needed him, and he said yes. Sometimes, that's all it takes. And unfortunately for him, sometimes that's not enough. Hale slipped into Long Island disguised as a Dutch schoolmaster. The disguise would have likely worked, but then came his inexperience. Unlike Washington's later Culper spy ring, Hale didn't bother with elaborate codes or invisible ink. No, he carried notes. Yes, actual written notes about British positions. Any seasoned spy would have known to eat them or burn them at the first hint of danger. But Hale, he just tucked them away. And unfortunately, danger found him. What happened next, some say, was either bad luck or just scandalous. Some say that Hale was betrayed by his own cousin, a loyalist with more loyalty to King George than family. Others swear he simply looked too nervous, too green, skulking around British-occupied New York. Whatever the truth, the British nabbed him, and they hauled him before General William Howe. And Howe, well, he didn't waste time with trials or formalities. He ordered Hale hanged the very next morning. Just like that. And here's where legend and reality start to blur. British officers who witnessed it swore that Hale met his death with calm dignity. He gave a speech. He was composed, steady, almost serene. And then there's the line, the one that everyone knows. "I only regret that I have but one life to lose for my country." Now, did Hale actually say those exact words? Maybe. They echo a famous line from Addison's play Cato, a favorite of the educated class, but here's the gossip. Some believe it was actually his friend, Captain William Hull, who polished Hale's final words after the fact, turning his simple farewell into immortal poetry. But whether Hale spoke it verbatim or not, the sentiment was his. He faced death without flinching, and that's really all that matters. Let's be blunt, though. Hale was unfortunately not a great spy. If Washington's spies were all Nathans, the revolution would have failed before it even began. But sometimes it isn't the success of the mission that matters, but the spirit with which it was attempted. The British thought hanging him would terrify the colonists. Instead, they handed us a martyr. The image of a young man, plain in dress, untrained in guile, yet fearless enough to stare down the gallows. It lit a fire. Hale was executed in September of 1776, barely months after we had declared our independence. The ink was still drying on the Declaration, and this new, fragile nation uncertain and weak. And yet, there was Nathan Hale, proving with his death that liberty was worth a life. The British meant to make an example of him, and they did, but it was not the one they intended. And perhaps that is Hale's true legacy, not the intelligence he failed to deliver, but the example he left behind. If you'd like to hear more of these tales, the scandals, the secrets, the betrayals, and the sparks of bravery that lit our revolution, please like this story below, then subscribe and join me again. Because trust me, my friends, there are so many more stories to tell.